Hi, and thanks for joining us here on Live with Squacky. I'm Val Kelly, otherwise known as Squacky Voice. And our special guest today is superstar voice actor Eric Aragoni. Eric is an LA-based voice actor, and we're honored to have the chance to talk with you today.
As am I, honored to be with the spectacularly talented Val Kelly.
So, Eric, we're really excited about this. I was checking out your website, and I see that your kind of slogan is voiceovers inside and outside the box. So how did you choose that as your...
Funny, I didn't.
Okay.
What happened was I was going through a web designer artist upgrade, and they listened. At that time, I only had my commercial demo, and they listened to it, and they were like, oh my God, that's the slogan. They said, this is you. And I said, yeah, that works. That works.
Cool.
So basically, I mean, they probably would give you a different story, but my feeling why they came up with it was because I have on that demo, there's a couple of the spots like the Mercedes and the Relief Plus that are just kind of the normal inside the box type of commercial that you would see. But then I have the Credit FX one where I'm cursing and doing the whole bit. And, there's some wacky ones there, and it's like, yeah, he kind of can go, in both directions. So it's kind of like tells you that I can do both things. So that's why I was like, yeah, that works.
That's cool. That's that is a really cool thing. So I see that you are located in North Hollywood, and
yes, don't hold that against me.
and that's a good thing. So an LA-based actor. And what's your background, and how did you get started in voiceover?
Well, as you can see, it's a lovely background here. We've got plenty of movies, and it's really good. Well, my background actually ties into how I got into the voiceover, which was I've worked for Universal Studios and the Walt Disney Company for over 10 years. And I actually had two starts to my voiceover career. The first start was a friend of mine. She knew I liked to do wacky voices and crazy stuff. And she actually, unbeknownst to me, got me an appointment with an agent at William Morris.
Oh, wow.
Well, you can imagine how crazy it was because I didn't have any training. The training I had at that point was I had seen Susan Blue's book, but other than that, I had no training.
Yeah.
So I was working at Universal at the time, and I was on the same floor with the movie trailer department. So I happened to go over to one of the engineers who I knew I was good friends with, and I said, "Look, I got this meeting. Can you do something?" And so he was nice enough to put in take out a little bit of time out of his day and help me put together a demo. So
That's awesome.
So I went down to William Morris, and he listened to it for about a minute. He stopped. He said, "Kid, yeah, you're." I mean, if I were to look back at it now, it's a terrible demo. But I didn't know any better. And he said, "Kid, you've got a lot of work to do, but I do see you have talent." So from there, I took a couple classes, but I did stop. And the reason I stopped was because, and you can probably appreciate this, which was at the job that I was at, I was reading a lot of movie scripts. And the quality of the movie scripts, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, is pretty good. So you're used to seeing, a lot of great dialogue that's really sharp and all that. And what I was finding was when I was taking those classes, the commercial copy wasn't the best.
Yeah.
So I kind of just walked away. I said, So cut to 4 years later, I'm having drinks with a friend of mine. I'm working at Disney at the time. I'm having drinks with a friend of mine who was a screenwriter. He was at the time an in-house screenwriter for Disney Toon Studios. And so I was, we had plenty of drinks in our systems, and all of a sudden I just started doing my usual wacky, crazy characters and impressions and all that. And he stopped me and he said, "You're really good." Now, obviously my brain had a lot of alcohol in it, but I felt I felt like that was an epiphany, because here's a guy his work has been done into movies.
Right.
And so he's heard voice actors mouthing his words, and he's like, and if he's saying that about me, I'm like, okay, well, I got to go for this then. And that's how I got into it from there.
Cool.
So
that's good. Yeah, I mean, it just I think people do kind of fall into it in some manner. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people start out as kids and they are just happen to be in it. You know, a lot of kids that are in LA and end up in voiceover are also on-screen actors. And yeah, but I think it's cool to hear everyone's story of how they kind of got their foot in the door.
They're
And,
always a little different, aren't they?
yeah, everyone has their own story, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who have you trained with that you would recommend, and why?
Well, I've trained with a lot of people, but I'll just hit a few that off the top of my head. Pat Fraley. I love Pat. I've taken a lot of his online classes, and I always love. I just love his energy about the way he does things in those classes. Particularly, the last one I took was You Train with the Stars. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but the way it was, at least at the time, I think he's expanded. It used to be where it was 5 weeks. Every week he'd send you a new thing, and you'd work with Ed Asner, Rob Paulson, Scott Brick, Nancy Cartwright, and Brad Garrett. And it was really cool because it upped your game, because he would send you like the recording of their side, and then you would record your side, and then he put it together for you and send it back to you with his comments.
Wow.
And it was really, really, I really learned a lot, just, because again, it's like, and you're familiar with this, when you work in animation and you're in the room with all these other actors, all of a sudden you feel like, oh, I don't want to be the I don't want to be the low man in the totem pole. I want to raise my game.
Yeah.
So that class in particular, I mean, his other classes are great, but that one really stands out for me. Dave Fenoy, another one I worked with. He had a workshop I wasn't able to attend here in town, but he did do the online recording of it, and I listened to that, and it was just, I love how he gets into the mindset of his characters for the video games, and he explains it as he's working with the students. And it was just amazing to hear how he thinks, even just about simple little things like grunts and stuff. And also, when he also brought in a casting director from Austin, Randall Ryan, and we got to hear him as he was interacting with the students. So, really, really good stuff, I thought.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Dave is great. I've had the chance to work with Dave a few times, and in a different capacity, of course, with the conference, but also have been to some workshops with him, and he's really a fantastic guy and really just super talented. And Pat, I haven't had a chance to work with Pat Fraley like in a coaching like scenario, but the first voiceover conference I ever went to in Toronto, he was the keynote speaker, and I was so amazed, because I was kind of just getting started, and I was so amazed at how many voices he could do, and it was really, he's very very inspiring and very just a great guy. He's really, really animated. He's just
Yep.
But
yep.
Yeah, so that's cool. So what have you learned over the years that you've been in the industry? In other words, everybody takes away different things, like positive and negative things that you've learned that you could share with people maybe just starting out, or people that have been in for a while, or something kind of special that you've learned.
Well, basically, I've learned the three things, the three P's, as I call them, to really help me, which is persistence, patience, and a positive attitude. And if you can use those three, you'll be good, because as you know, persistence in this business is a must. I mean, it's not, I don't know who thinks this, but I hear people say this, oh, it'll just take me a couple weeks and I'm going to be golden. I'm like,
yeah, no, it's not. It doesn't work like that. It's as much as you think, or, you know, as much as you think like, oh, my voice is really unique, I'm really good. Like, I don't know if everybody feels that way, you know what I mean? But like, it's not an overnight industry. Exactly.
Nope.
It's not. And you can do hundreds and hundreds of auditions even before you even book your first thing. And if without that, like you said, without that persistence, it's tricky. You know, you can't just be like, well, I guess we'll just give up. You know, like I had one negative review. Well, I'm done. You know.
Well, then you are in the wrong industry.
Yeah,
if that's
exactly.
Your attitude.
Not good. I remember going to I was at one of the first animation trainings I ever went to with Bob Bergen, and you know, he's a fantastic coach. You know, just really so driven and so much valuable information. It was like a weekend session that I went to, and he had someone come in, an agent to that session, who was really like, if you're not in LA, you'll never make it in animation, and you know, and it was very like
positive.
I think that what happened was, you know, it was like, let me give you some kind of a wake-up call. But I know that it wasn't meant to be a negative scenario. It was just like, we want you to realize that at this agency, this is what we're looking for, kind of thing, you know? And I took it because I was just starting out, and I was very like naive and not used to hearing that kind of criticism, you know? I took it very to heart, and I was very upset. Like, well, I guess I'll just give up then. And I remember Bob saying to me, like, what are you talking about? Like, why would you give up? Like, why would you do that, Val? Why would you do that? You know, like, why? Just why? Right? And
That sounds like Bob.
I don't know if he actually said it like that. I love
believe that's wrong, Val.
I think he's one of the best coaches I've ever worked with, to be honest. You know, shout out to Bob Bergen. So yeah, but
I can hear you, Val. I can hear you.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if I went into it thinking my voice is really unique. I am going to be one of those crazy people that makes it overnight, and it was just like, probably not, Val. You know, probably not. You do have a unique voice, but it's probably not going to happen like that. And it was, like I said, a wake-up call, but it was good in a good way in the end, you know. And at the time, I couldn't really see it, but I also didn't give up. I also said, you know, this is who I am. This is what I want to do, and that persistence definitely has paid off.
And you're still here. And you're still here.
Here I am. So yeah, but what else were you saying about your three
patience?
Things? Yeah.
Patience, because you're putting yourself out there, and you know. I mean, I was just before we came on, and you were sending me a direct message. I was just cranking out a couple of auditions, so it's like, you know, you gotta have patience, and sometimes you'll get those auditions that you just want so bad.
Yeah.
But again, you got to be patient, because, you know, just because you want it that badly at that time, it may not be right for you, regardless of how much you want it, because it's a big name. Like, oh, Nintendo wants me, oh boy.
Right.
Lucasfilm wants me, oh boy. And, you know, but again, I think of it as, it goes back to the patience thing, or the persistence thing, which is, this is a marathon. You're not sprinting. Just, you know, keep doing what you're doing, keep working hard, keep, you know, practicing, and it goes into my other P, positive attitude. You got to have the positive attitude. And if you can combine those three, again, this is a long game. This is not a short game.
Yeah, so. Definitely. I think the positivity piece of that is very, it's very important, you know, because there's so much negativity in the world as a whole, but it's something I feel extremely passionate about, and try to be as positive as I possibly can. But you can't let other people that are going to be negative, no matter what, you can't let them bring you down. You just can't, because this is an industry that is ever changing, that
Mhm.
you have to have a thick skin, and if you don't, you're probably not going to make it, because you can't take things like I did to heart that are not meant to be taken like that. And, you got to be able to bounce back from whatever negative criticism there is.
Absolutely. And I always think of what William Goldman always said about Hollywood, which nobody knows nothing. So always think of that.
True. Oh my gosh. So, what else? Well, we kind of covered those things. What a, I lost my train of thought for a second.
Oh, there it goes.
It's gone. Yeah.
Come back.
Come back. So we talked about your branding, and what about the types of work that you book? Like, what are the things that you feel you're known for, per se, in the industry? Like, do you book mostly commercials? Do you do a little bit of everything? Or and on top of that, what's your favorite type of work to book?
Well, let's start with my favorite type. I love to be villains in video games. That is just I was watching the other day the commercial for the new Avengers Infinity War trailer, and I'm like, oh, Josh Brolin has such a great voice with that Thanos voice, and I'm like, I want to be like that.
Do it. Put it out there in the universe. So now it's definitely going to happen. So yeah.
But I love doing those. I've booked a couple here and there on those, but usually that's, if you were to say, oh, which thing, and that is it. I love being the villain, just the bad mother. I love that. I think it came from when I watched two films, which was Silence of the Lambs and the original Die Hard with Alan Rickman, and I just love those characters, and I'm just like that. That to me, if you were to say, okay, you can only have one job in voiceover, that's it, I'd be like, that's it. That's what I want.
That's cool.
As far as your other question about what I typically book, video games are a fairly big part of it. I do little commercials here and there, character work. I particularly like when I get to do the which, nowadays with everybody in their own home studios, but since I live out here, once in a while they will bring me into the studio and I'm able to do like partner reads. And those are I always love those. And those I've booked, a few here and there type deal. So, and I've done a little bit of e-learning, a little bit of animation, but that's mainly it. So,
cool. Now, do you do on-screen work as well? Like, do you book any of that? It's not your thing.
Yeah, not my thing.
Okay.
Not my thing.
Cool. Yeah.
Not to say that I'm opposed to it. I'm just saying it's just not something I've
like if
pursued.
someone wwants to book you for a commercial that happens to be like running during the Super Bowl, you're not going to say no, right?
I'm right here.
Because this is out there now. It's going to be out there. So like you don't know who's going to watch.
No.
Like, oh my gosh,
not
we
opposed.
need Eric for this.
No, we can't have him. Hey, he doesn't want it. I didn't say that.
So, all right. So what are you working on now? Or what have you worked on recently that you're allowed to talk about?
Well, I have a couple of mobile video games that are coming soon that I'm excited about, but I can't talk about. So
gotcha.
I will say that. I used to be
Right.
one of those people that says, I got a lot to talk about. Oh, no, as I like to say, numerous projects in various stages of development. But I do have one project. It's a little off the beaten path, a web series that I wrote that I'm working with a director on right now. We're hoping the goal is to shoot it this year. It is kind of based upon my wacky experiences in offices and cubicles and whatnot.
Cool.
So, But,
is it animated? Did you say it's animated or no?
It's kind of a combination. My director wants it to be kind of like BoJack Horseman meets The Office. So
okay.
that kind of thing. So
cool. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know a little bit about the animation writing, so there you go.
I mean, no. I think, yeah, I mean, I am writing an animated series right now. It's probably going to start out as a web series, collaborating with a friend of mine who's an animator on it, hopefully from Disney, and just trying to get like the first 6 episodes written before we go to, storyboarding and all of that. But it's difficult because I'm on the East Coast and he's on the West Coast, and sometimes you just have to be in the same town to get stuff totally done. But
yeah, that's why I'm lucky. The director, she lives literally like a couple blocks away, so it's very, very easy.
That's cool. Yeah, it is exciting. That I think a lot of people are creating their own work now. It's we're gonna put up these sort of roadblocks for you of you're not in LA, or you are in LA, so that's good for you, with the type of work that you aspire to do, and that you are doing. And I think, for me, not being in LA, not having the capability to be there full time right now, sometimes you got to make your own work, and so
Absolutely.
That's what I'm doing. And I really enjoy writing, so that was something
As
that
do
I
I.
discovered. So so I think just keep writing and just keep working at it, and who knows, maybe we'll have,
writing is rewriting, as we both know.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. So what are some upcoming trainings or workshops that you are planning to attend, and why?
Well, I do have the Mid-Atlantic voiceover in my back of my mind. I haven't committed to anything because, again, I have this sneaky suspicion that I might actually be shooting the web series around that time. So, but I still have it in the back of my mind because I'd love to hear Kari talking. So she's fabulous.
Yeah.
But as we talked about beforehand, I do have Mary Lynn Wisner's workshop with Mattel Toys that I'm very excited about.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, I've never done that. So, and people tell me, oh, you should do that. So I'm like, okay, well, I'd be a fool not to. Duh.
Well, here I am. Let's go. Hello. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. We would love to have you at the conference if you can make it, November 9 through 11 in Herndon, Virginia. And like you said,
I'm familiar with the East Coast. I'm familiar.
Keynote speaker is Kari Wahlgren, and we're very excited. And I think this is just a minute of a plug for MAVO 2018 is just that I think something that you and other people should consider is that it is a chance for people to really work with these coaches and actors in a very unique setting, in that we keep it small on purpose. So in contrast to a great conference like Voice Over Atlanta, where you have 700 people, which can be overwhelming, but also fantastic. With MAVO, we keep it small so that, when you're hearing Kari do her keynote, there's a larger group of people. But when Kari does her breakout session, it's limited to 12 to 15 attendees. And, she's working more hands-on with those people. And it's a very unique atmosphere, specifically for the fact that we want to keep it so that I want people to walk away from my event going, I got to have a conversation with Kari, or with Sarah Sherman, or with whoever, they really want to meet, and I didn't have to wait in line for 25 minutes to do it. And I didn't have to, like some of the bigger conferences, you really have to fight your way to the front of the area to meet with some of those people. And so, but we would obviously love for you to be there, and we will hopefully see you there. But what else? Tell us something else about you, like little.
What would you like to know?
Tell us something unique.
Let's see.
About
Hold on.
You
I love long walks on the beach. I love the color red. I was born in Syracuse, New York. What else would you like to know?
Well, that's fantastic. No, but just thanks so much for joining us, Eric. We really appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time, and we know that you're really busy, so it means a lot that you would take the time out of your day to meet with me. And everybody, keep your eyes out for what Eric is doing, because he is on the rise to superstardom in voiceover. and also potentially in like Super Bowl commercials and management positions, but but thanks again for joining us, and
Thank you.
we will talk to you again soon.